Distinguished guests today, Governor Cooper, thank you for all that you do for our state. Secretary Foxx, thank you for initiating this concept, bestowing this unique privilege and honor, because it's one that's so well earned and deserved. And thank you, Mayor Bell, for all of the decades of service that you have given to Durham. We know next Monday night you'll no longer be our mayor officially, but for all of us who know the leadership that you have provided as a member of the County Commissioners and as our mayor, going back now to, my gosh, about 2002, I just want to thank you. For all of you, that are here today, thank you for coming out, because this is an important and significant occasion. It could occur at no more fitting and appropriate place than this very venue. This was the heartbeat and center of civil rights movement. If you lived through the 50s, if you lived through the 60s, you know St. Joseph was the place where all the civil rights leaders came. This podium was where they stood. This podium is where they spoke. And it was from this church that people load up in buses to go out and desegregate public facilities in this community. So no more fitting place could this particular ceremony occur. When I think back of John Hope Franklin, I think back when I first met him through my dad. And my dad was very active, as many of you know, in the civil rights movement, but he started a center called the North Carolina Center for the Study of Black History. John Hope Franklin was a member of that board of directors. I served on that board, and one of the things that we actually worked on was an archive of the records of people from here in North Carolina. And that archive was actually kept in the annex of this very building, down at the lower level for about 7 or 8 years, until many of those records, including my dad's records, were transferred over to UNC Chapel Hill. It was that very commitment to preserving and understanding black history that John Hope Franklin was about. I can remember meeting with him on many occasions, probably about once a quarter, right over here in this very building, in that annex. We worked on programs dealing with preparing the next generation for leadership, mentoring programs that brought students in to North Carolina Central University's campus in the summer months and exposed those kids for about 3 weeks to all that they needed to know to understand when it came to politics, to bringing in a whole cadre of leaders to expose them to what they could become, but more importantly, opening up their minds to opportunities otherwise they would never have. That's what John Hope Franklin was about. That's part of that legacy that many people may not know about, but it's part of the legacy that is very much a part of what he was involved in. I think back to times when I met with him outside of those meetings right here in St. Joseph, but over in a home of a gentleman by the name of Dr. Darrell Lamont Roberts. So you might remember Dr. Roberts. He was a professor over at Duke University for quite some time before he went on to Tuskegee, where he headed up the political science department. But had it not been for John Hope Franklin, Dr. Roberts would have never come to Durham. Had it not been for John Hope Franklin, Skipper Gates would have never come to Durham and worked over at Duke before going on to Harvard. He brought that quality of talent to our community, that type of inspired leadership. If I think back to those times of sitting in Dr. Roberts' home and the knowledge that you could just gain from sitting there talking for hours with those 3 of them, it was enormous. But Dr. Franklin was somebody who was fitting and appropriate for the time. He was intelligent, he was persuasive, he was direct, but most importantly, you knew where he stood at the end of a conversation. But he could use that gentleness of persuasion, that gentleness of influence to make a remarkable and impressionable point, whatever it may happen to be. Somebody that opened up doors. He was so good and so crafted at that skill set that President Clinton appointed him to take charge of a commission that dealt with dealing with racial reconciliation in America. And if there's ever a time where we needed to bring Dr. Franklin back today to do a reconciliation,